Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 938 of the Juicebox Podcast. On this episode of the Juicebox Podcast, I'll be speaking with Heather. She's an adult living with type 1 diabetes who made a major change in her management after finding a lump in her breast. While you're listening, please remember that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. If you'd like to save 10% off your first month of therapy, use my link betterhelp.com/juicebox. And to get 5 free travel packs and a year's supply of vitamin D, make your first order for AG1 from Athletic Greens at athleticgreens.com/juicebox. If you're looking for the Diabetes Pro Tip series, you can find it at diabetesprotip.com, juiceboxpodcast.com, or beginning at episode 210 in your podcast player. And of course, don't miss the private Facebook group, Juicebox Podcast Type 1 Diabetes. Absolutely free, 40,000 members, something for everyone. Check it out. Juicebox Podcast Type 1 Diabetes on Facebook. But you don't have to have type 1. We let everybody in. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by US Med. US Med is the place where my daughter gets her Omnipod and Dexcom supplies, but they have much more than that. Head now to usmed.com/juicebox to get your free benefits check or call 888-721-1514. The podcast is also sponsored today by Cozy Earth. Now, longtime listeners will know I'm sleeping on Cozy Earth sheets. I love my Cozy Earth joggers and sweatshirts, but I just made an addition. The towels. We have the waffle towels now, and they're fantastic. CozyEarth.com. Go there, load up your cart, use the offer code JUICEBOX at checkout, and you will save 35% off your entire order. I'm going to tell you about those towels later. Magnificent. You have no, wait till you see.
My name's Heather. I live in Yellowknife, Northwest Territories in Canada. I am a type 1 diabetic, and I've been diabetic for 17 years.
You know, when you said Yellowknife, I thought a minute ago before we started recording, I told Heather, you don't have to tell people where you live. And now she's making something up that just it's nonsensical. But is it a real place, Yellowknife?
It is a real place, yeah, in the Northwest, like the northernmost territory.
Is that the Yukon?
It's beside the Yukon. It's Yukon adjacent.
You trying to name your episode?
Maybe, I don't know.
We already have a butthole adjacent. Do you?
I know. I listened to that one yesterday and I died.
Did you really?
Yeah, actually did.
Oh, what a coincidence.
It is a coincidence.
Let me see if I remember that one. The guest, a lady, had an abscess somewhere between. I don't even know what to say. It's
okay.
Heather, what popped into my head, may I share? I'll just bleep it out. I thought to say between the and the stick. And
100%.
And instead I went, children, listen to this. I have.
They don't need to know that yet.
Yeah. So near her butthole and her lady bits, sort of in between, she had an abscess. That's sort of how she was diagnosed. Am I right about that?
Yeah, you're 100% right about that. And she was a nurse. Yeah,
everyone should check out that episode.
It's a great episode, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Anyway, you live. Why do you live where you live? What happened? Did you get lost in there and just decided to stay, or?
I just wandered off too far, and here we are.
Were you born in?
My sister actually lives here, so she got me a job at. I work at a dental clinic, so she got me a job at a dental clinic.
I was like, oh God, you're not a can dancer, are you? Because there was another episode.
There's also a Canadian can dancer. I listened to that one a couple weeks ago too.
I was like, oh my God, is this all going to come full circle? So are you guys, are you American?
No, I'm Canadian.
Okay. So you guys born in the Canada somewhere, your sister migrates to the North Pole for some reason, and you decide to go because there's a job in a dental office?
Because there's a job at a dental office, yeah. And I don't like teeth, so why not?
At least you're not following a boy around.
No. He followed me.
Oh, Well, that's acceptable. That I have no trouble with.
Yeah.
By the way, does it sound like I have trouble with women following men places? I don't think I do.
No, but
Yeah.
you have a daughter. I get it.
I also have to fill an hour of this conversation. So
Yeah.
I need to have an opinion on almost everything you say or I'm in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. As you should.
Yeah. Well, okay. So how long ago did you move there?
I've been here for 9 years.
You really don't like teeth?
Yeah, no, teeth are gross. I hate the dentist. I have bad dental anxiety.
What do you do in the office?
I do like administrative stuff with like insurance companies and stuff. So
you're not the person.
I'm like out of the picture. I'm like in an office away. Don't see anybody.
Okay. You're not the person who's texting me 3 days from my appointment, reminding me of my cleaning.
No.
That's been the worst thing to happen to dental care in the last 15 years. Is there?
Hey, by the way, you have a dental appointment. Text 1 to reply.
Oh my God. I'm going to hold on a second. This is how much I hate this. I'm going to read you the text. I want to respond back and say, you're making me not care about my dental health. But hey, Scott, it's Cynthia from Dr. Blank's office. I'm reaching out to remind you of your hygiene appointment with us for Monday at 2 p.m. Please call or text to confirm. Thanks. And I want to respond, leave me alone.
Yeah. Where's the opt out?
I have a calendar. I know when my dental appointment is.
Yeah.
Please leave me alone. And instead I ignore it. And then you get like a follow-up and then you're like, oh God, now I have to respond. So I just type, I'll be there without punctuation. And then she's like, great.
All in caps.
We'll see you then. Have a great weekend. Leave me alone.
I'm so excited about this. Yeah.
Please leave me alone. Okay. So you don't like teeth, but you work in a dentist's office, but you're in the back. You've been in the Canada for like 9 years, right?
Yeah.
Right.
In the northern Canada for 9 years. I've been here my whole life, but yeah.
Yeah. And okay, in that part of the Canada. And how old are you now?
I'm 33.
Okay. And when did you get type 1?
A month before my 15th birthday.
No.
Yeah.
So like 18 years ago.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Does your sister have any of the autoimmune stuff?
No, I am the only autoimmune thing. My dad has a thyroid issue, so there's that.
Oh. Do you know if it's autoimmune or if it's not?
I don't know, but his mom had it. Her mom, it's a long line of thyroid problems.
Do they call it hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's?
Yes, he's on that drug that your son takes.
Really?
Yeah.
He's on Tirosint?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I asked him about it the other day.
You can get that in Canada?
I think so.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It really is. I don't understand. You don't even have roads.
Right?
How do you get stuff
all
around?
Dirt?
Oh, you imagine it as dirt? No, not even that. Ice.
Not even. Just
crusty
rocks.
snow.
Not even a path.
And a hill, and then just a thing standing off in the distance. It's an animal I've never seen before that looks vaguely menacing, but leaves me alone. That's how I see Canada.
Absolutely. We have lots of those.
And then a Mountie and then 3 people in a bar stabbing each other. That's pretty much how I see this whole thing.
That you just described Yellowknife.
I imagine I did, by the way, but I don't know. Okay, so right before your 15th birthday. So no family history. It's not like you were looking for it. How did it happen?
So I used to play competitive soccer. And this was the first year that we decided not to practice through Christmas break. And I was living my best life. So I was drinking lots, the typical things, drinking lots. My vision went, my gums were bleeding. I lost close to 30 pounds. My mom was a nurse, so she kind of recognized it, but denial. So we went and got my blood sugar tested, and I came out at 28, which is like in the 500s.
Heather, we're going to have a good time today. And the reason I say that is because you thought back on being 15 and just were like, so I did what 15-year-olds do. I drank to excess and my gums were bleeding.
100%. Yeah. That was it. I remember my one of my girlfriends tells me I remember we went to the movies and you drank 3 large pops in an hour. And I was like, oh, shit, that's cool.
I don't remember that, but okay.
Thirsty, man.
Isn't that great what she remembers? She's like, that's important when you're 15.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why the latent alcoholism at such a young age, Heather?
Right?
What's going on? Were you just bored, sad? What was happening?
Just like chugging all the time. Just needed the booze.
I want to say, is this a Canadian thing? But I think I'm the outlier when it comes to drinking. So I'm not sure how to...
No, I mean, I wasn't a drinker, really. I didn't drink until I was 19. I waited until the legal appropriate age.
So all this chugging was just...
like pop. Yeah.
Oh my God, Heather, I thought you were...
Oh God, no.
I
no.
thought you
no,
were...
please God.
What did I misunderstand? I thought you were like,
probably because I said I was living my best life and you thought, oh yeah, here we go.
I just thought these Canadians, all they do is stab people and drink. This must be the story. So here we go.
Well, yeah, here we go.
Here's another Canadian girl telling me about her boozing.
Yeah.
But okay. All right. So you were just consuming a lot of liquids.
Yeah, just a lot of liquid in non-alcoholic form.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. All right. This all makes more sense to me now.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. So you think your mom notices, but she doesn't say anything? Do you eventually go to her?
I think it was just like I think it was a build up. Like my vision went first, and then we went and got new glasses, and that was like a whole thing. And then like I happened to go to the dentist, and they were like, "Wow, your gums are bleeding a lot, and that's abnormal, but like carry on with your life." And then the weight loss, I think, was what my mom really noticed. And like in such a short period of time, they figured that because I was so active, that was kind of keeping my blood sugar in range.
Okay.
And then because I had like 2.5 weeks of no activity,
you noticed it all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Oh, because of the lack of soccer. Wow, what a different story. I had you with a fifth of vodka in your hand, just bleeding from the corner of your mouth, drunk in a movie theater. And really,
I mean, we could say that that's what happened.
I don't want to say anything that's not true. Yeah. But instead, you're just an athletic girl who gets a couple months off, and all of a sudden, this is how you see the diabetes come up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then because you're in Canada, you made an appointment and they saw you in 14 months. Is that right?
They saw me like within like 3, like this all happened in a course of 3 weeks.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So 18 years ago, that's a pretty long time. You're not, what was the management style back then?
I was MDI. So I was on Novo Rapid and Livimir. Mm-hmm. So and then I changed to Lantus at some point after that. And then I was on Tresiba at the end of my MDI adventure.
But you're in a province where they didn't try to give you a sliding scale. They gave you
they gave me a sliding scale.
Oh, they did.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
And how long did you stick with that? And did that mess with you?
I think I only did that for a couple months. And then I got a carb ratio, and then everything was kind of golden from there. Okay. I basically, I never really honeymooned. I basically was like out of insulin. My pancreas was like, yeah, I'm done with this.
Gotcha. How long did you play professional soccer?
I love that you said that I'm a professional soccer player. So let's go with that.
No. I was actually just making fun of parents who are spending too much money on their children in sports, but go ahead.
Oh God, no, I wasn't going anywhere. I didn't like to run. So, and I was the goalie. So,
good enough.
That's the spot where you stay if you don't want to run. So, I played until I was 18.
Okay. Did you go to, what would they call that? University? Would you call it university in Canada? I did go.
I went to a university, but I didn't play soccer in university. Gotcha. I wasn't that good.
Yeah. It's not going to work out for most of you. That's all.
No, I was not getting a professional career in soccer.
I've come to understand that the money that my son got for playing sports in college is almost tip of the iceberg for what most people get. You know what I mean? It's just, he was so focused on continuing to play. You had these expectations as it was going to happen. As it kept happening, you were like, well, of course, the next thing happened like we expected it to. But now you look back with hindsight and you're like, it's, for so many people, it just doesn't work out that way. And it's almost random sometimes. But, okay. So soccer, I mean, I don't know how you play soccer in snow, but whatever. And
well, where I lived at the time, there was no snow. There's no snow there.
You're a liar. How could that be?
When you live in a small area, Vancouver, BC. It typically doesn't get very much snow.
West Coast. I see.
Yeah. That's where I grew up.
Big TV filming area.
Yeah, huge. Yeah. It's funny. I can pick out things in movies. I'm like, oh, that's filmed in BC.
Yeah.
I recognize those trees.
It's crazy. When I interviewed Victor Garber, he was in Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
They were on like a holiday break from the TV show he was doing at the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, that's neither here nor there. So, Heather, I feel like I should just jump in and ask you why you wanted to come on the podcast, because your notes, let me read them to people.
Oh my God, I bet they're super invigorating. Like, I bet they're just so
Why do you want to come? Here are the questions that are asked. If I ask you to come on the podcast, send you a link, your relationship to diabetes, you said type 1. Have you ever been a guest, or have you been a guest on another type 1 podcast the past 6 months? You said no. What are some of the themes you hope to cover on your episode? Other complications from type 1, looping, how awesome Scott is.
Right. See, there we go.
I don't know if we can make an hour out of it, but
let's talk about you for a while.
Let's start on me. No, I'm just kidding. So I want to talk about, I guess I want to start with looping, because you just went over your progress and the insulins you were using. When did you start using a pump? Let me tell you about US Med. They have a dedicated 800 number just for Juicebox Podcast listeners. 888-721-1514. You use that number to get your free benefits check. You can also do it online at my link, usmed.com/juicebox. But that's not what you care about. Here's what you care about. US Med carries everything from insulin pumps and diabetes testing supplies to the latest in CGMs, like the Libre 3 and the Dexcom G7. They also have the Libre 2, the G6. They've got, what else? Omnipod DASH, Omnipod 5, Tandem T-Slim X2. What am I saying here? T-Slim X2. My goodness. They got what you're looking for, baby. US Med accepts Medicare nationwide and over 800 private insurers. usmed.com/juicebox. Go check them out. They're the #1 specialty distributor for Omnipod DASH, the #1 fastest growing tandem distributor nationwide, and so much more. They've served over 1 million people living with diabetes since 1996, and they're going to give you better service and better care. On top of all that, US Med always provides 90 days worth of supplies and fast and free shipping. Head over to the link now, usmed.com/juicebox. Get your supplies the same way Arden does, from US Med. Now let's talk about some comfort. CozyEarth.com. I've got Cozy Earth sheets on my bed. I've got Cozy Earth joggers on my butt. I wore a Cozy Earth sweatshirt the other day, kept me warm without making me hot. Wasn't cold, wasn't hot, was just comfortable, and it fit me nice, and it felt good. Comfy, 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 cozy. Just like the sheets, just like the name, Cozy Earth. Now, what have I done recently? Added Cozy Earth towels to the lineup here at the house. I'm getting out of the shower every day, and I got the waffle towels from Cozy Earth. You'll find them at CozyEarth.com. Go up to bath, click on, you'll see. Anyway, the waffle towels. One side has this like waffly, I don't know what you would call it, and I use that for my first towel down. A little bit of zim, 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 like get off the big stuff. You know what I mean? And then flip it around to the super, super soft side. Take care of the rest. I love the Cozy Earth towels. My bits and pieces love them, and I think you might love them too. CozyEarth.com. Now here's the best part. 35% off of your entire order at checkout. Not just the first time. You go buy some towels today. You go to the checkout, you put the word Juicebox in at checkout, you save 35%. You come back a week later, you want some sheets, use the offer code Juicebox, 35, doesn't matter, no limit. You use that offer code as much as you want at CozyEarth.com. Use that offer code Juicebox at checkout, save yourself 35%, make your bits and pieces happy. There are links in the show notes of the podcast player you're listening in now, links at juiceboxpodcast.com to US Med, Cozy Earth, all of the sponsors. When you click on my links or use my offer codes, you are keeping the podcast free and plentiful, and I very much appreciate it. Now I'm going to get you back to Heather, and we're going to continue on our journey.
I started using a pump in 2019, I think.
Okay.
No, 2018. I lied. 2018.
4 years ago.
So it's been 4 years. Yeah.
Okay. Did you make the leap because you weren't happy with your care, or were you just trying to make a change, or what was happening?
So I actually started wearing a pump pretty quick after I was diagnosed. I was very fortunate that one of my best friends was diabetic. So he was really big on me getting a pump because he had a pump, and it made everything was so much easier if you just got a pump. And my mom wanted me to wear a pump, so I was like, all right, I'll do it. I wasn't thrilled, but I did it. But it was a Medtronic something. I don't know. I can't even remember.
I understand.
It was real old.
It was real old.
And I hated being like tubed. I hated it. I wore it for a couple years. And I wore it. They labeled me as non-compliant because I didn't really care.
So how does that work?
Like
So you're wearing the pump. You don't like the pump. Do you not put it on? Do you not bolus? Like what?
I think I just wasn't. I wasn't bolusing properly. So like basically, I was running on basal for most of it.
Okay, because you. Were you, when you weren't on a pump, were you injecting at your meals?
Yep.
What the hell changed, Heather?
I don't know. I just, like I was fine for the first little while. Like I probably got it when I was 17, I want to say. And then by the time I was 19, I was like, yeah, I'm done with this. But I didn't know that I could just say that I was done with it. So instead of telling my doctor that I didn't want to do it, I just self-sabotaged.
Oh, they call that quiet quitting now.
Yeah.
Isn't that what they call it nowadays?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I keep up with what the kids are saying. You're
so in tune.
So you thought you would break up with your pump by ignoring it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
It didn't take the hint?
It did not. No, it didn't. It didn't end well for me.
The pump kept coming over on Friday nights expecting dinner and sex.
Yeah, and I didn't deliver.
So what? I don't know. It's an odd analogy, but so what happened then? Did your health start trending the wrong way, I would imagine?
Yeah. So I always had trouble getting my blood sugars down to begin with. I was insulin resistant for a while. Like I took metformin, and just to try to help. And that was horrible. I hated it. But I had a DKA, like, I don't know. I want to say like 6 times.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
So
yeah.
Were you tired of diabetes and you were taking it out, like you were blaming the pump?
A little bit of both, I think. Yeah.
Okay. And that went on for how long?
Probably 2 or 3 years, maybe.
Wow. I'm going to get back to that in just a second, but it turns out quiet quitting is an application of work to rule in which employees work with defined work hours and engage solely in activities within those hours. The philosophy of quiet quitting, despite the name, is not necessarily connected to quitting the job outright, but rather doing exactly what the job requires. Why the hell would they call it quiet quitting then?
Yeah, that seems like quietly doing your job.
Quiet working at the best.
Yeah, quiet working.
Yeah. Or focused
quietly
working.
Completing your tasks.
And just to show you how quickly these like monikers can fly through the internet, in the last, under the news tab on the Google machine, quiet quitting has 12 articles in the last 18 hours.
Jesus.
Like why do people, our obsession with quiet quitting doesn't seem to be going away. Management's answer to quiet quitting. Minnesota among top 5 states for quiet quitting. Quiet quitting is a fake trend. Why does it feel real? Says The Atlantic.
It's called doing your job is what that's called.
Yeah. So I just assumed quiet quitting was like you just don't do your job until someone walks up to you one day and goes, all right, man, fine, leave. And then you
Get
can
it together.
leave. Then you can go, I don't know what happened. They just fired me. But it turns out that this has nothing to do with what you were doing with your pump.
Yeah, nothing to do with it. So I definitely wasn't quiet.
You were not quiet quitting.
Not staying within.
So do people know you're in your late teens, early 20s while this is happening? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone notice it? Your doctor, a family member, somebody?
Yeah, my doctor did. She like, I went to go see her. I was still seeing a pediatric endo, and she like, oh, let me see your pump. And I'm like, I've written out all of my blood sugars to give her. And then she like looks at it and she's like, yeah, but I want to see your pump. And I'm like, okay. And I had to her, and she's like, why are there no boluses? And I'm like,
It's more of a basal machine. It really,
She's like, all I can see is basal.
Yeah.
I'm like, it never even occurred to me that that's something that she could look at. Like, I don't know. I just was like, oh, like she's just going to want to see what my blood sugars have been. Here's a piece of paper with it all.
This is more of a niche pump. It only does this part.
Yeah. And
so when that happens, like, does the doctor look at you horrified and go, Heather, you're killing yourself? Or what do they do?
Yeah. She was like really angry, and she labeled me non-compliant, and then I never went back.
I'll show you not.
That was my problem to that. I was like, fine, I don't need to see her.
She's going to be so honest about what's happening.
Yeah. What does this bitch know?
So does I'm completely compliant. I'm just not paying attention to it. I know I'm supposed to be always.
I'm willingly not doing what I want to do. Yeah.
What was your diet like during that time?
No, like I ate whatever. It didn't matter.
Okay.
I, drank slushies.
A1C in the 11s, 12s?
Oh yeah, easily. I don't know what my A1C was when I was diagnosed. But it has only like just in the last like 4 years since I've changed back onto a pod. It's only like come down from the 10s in the last 4 years.
So Heather, being serious for a minute, do you have any hindsight idea about what was happening?
Probably I just was not happy that I was diabetic. Like, not that it was difficult, but I just wanted to be normal.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I didn't want to have to think about it. And I know my friend who was diabetic, he was diagnosed when he was 4. So like everything was like second nature to him. But he'd never known anything different. But I think because I was almost 16. So I had 16 years of just not having to worry about anything like that. And then to kind of have it piled on really sucked.
But you said doing it wasn't difficult. So then this was just
no, it wasn't difficult. It just was like an extra step that I just didn't want to have to do. And I didn't think that, I thought that if I ignored it, nothing, like what could go wrong?
Yeah. So it's a psychological.
Oh yeah, for sure.
In nature. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you find help for that? Does it run its course? Do you have a scare?
No, I think I just I found an endo pretty quick after not being allowed to, or not going to see the other one. And she was really great. I think she kind of talked some sense into me, where at least, and then she just was like, get off your pump. You don't want to be on a pump. Get off the pump. Like, that's fine. You can go back to MDI. And I was doing that, and my blood sugars weren't good, but I had always in my mind, like, oh, well, my blood sugars are always high. That's just the type of, like, that's just how my diabetes is.
Okay. And so her idea was, you don't want to use the pump, so get off the pump. We'll go back to this. But did that change anything immediately? I can't imagine.
I think then I was bolusing, obviously, for food that I was eating. So there's that.
So when it was pushing a button, you were like, bridge too far. But when it was to draw up a needle or use a pen, you're like, yeah, this is fine. I'll do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Heather, you're going to make some guy very unhappy one day. Are you, well, that was the wrong word. Hold on. I'm going through a list of synonyms in my mind. I'm just going to go back to my original word. Are you difficult in other ways, Heather?
I mean, I don't think so, but probably.
But because like this is either, like, I don't have diabetes, right? But this is either a kind of deep rooted psychological, wall you've built around yourself.
Yeah.
Or it's you doing the like you're going to hear Arden in a couple of weeks be on the podcast where she tells you that like she has no trouble taking her thyroid medication, for example. She's like, I'll take it every day. I'll take exactly what I'm supposed to. I have no trouble with it. If somebody reminds me to do it, the first thing I want to do is not take it. And is it just that? Is it, you called it self-sabotage earlier, but do you mean that like in the strict definition of it? Were you trying to hurt yourself?
I just think that like, I didn't think that anything, like it was like, oh, I have diabetes, but like I could see that my friend was fine and he was doing what he was doing. And I think I just didn't understand why I was struggling so much and why my blood sugars were so high and why I couldn't do all the things like, he could go and chug a Slurpee or slushy or whatever and he would be fine, but that's because he's bolusing properly. Whereas like, I just didn't understand it, I don't think. And I think I was just, I just didn't think that like, it didn't matter. Like, oh, I have diabetes, no big deal. What's the worst that could happen?
Were you angry about it or depressed about it?
I think I was angry about it.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that I was depressed about it. No.
Well, it's interesting because you're thoughtful and articulate and bright, and you're all the things that I would associate with, wanting to push through it and help yourself.
Yeah.
I think there's no rhyme or reason for why it strikes people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you see any of these personality traits in your mom or your dad or other people in your extended family?
Nope.
Nothing.
Nope.
No, like kind of like, I don't mean these words. By the way, when I say stuff like difficult, I don't mean in the 1950s sense. Like, oh,
no.
yeah. Give her a second to sit down. She's difficult. I don't mean like that.
Yeah.
I just mean like you're brusque against things. You're pushing back. You're,
and like, this is like, I want to say that like diabetes is the only thing that I've ever really pushed back against. I'm usually like pretty like chill.
This is the thing you picked.
Yeah, this was it. I was like, all right, this is the hill I'm going to die on. Yeah.
Literally.
Literally. Yeah.
Normally I just do what I have to do, but on this one thing, I was thinking maybe I'd give myself a mountain of health problems.
Yeah.
So did you give yourself a mountain of health problems or what happened?
Well, I have a lot of autoimmune stuff going on to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like, and like, this might be part of it too. Like I was diagnosed with scoliosis, when I was 13. So I had to wear a brace for a year and a half.
Okay.
So like wasn't thrilled about that. So then it was like, then the next I got, it's called Chiari-1 malformation. It's where your cerebellum space is too small. So the little tail on your brain can fuse to your spine.
Wait, what now? Wait a second. What's that called again?
Chiari-1 malformation.
Wait a second. That's a lot of typing. Is it serious? Like that's the sad. Well, no, that's the first. That's the first.
Oh, the first question.
Yeah, which means that everybody who gets told this, the doctors like goes to their phone. They're like, "Uh-oh, hold on a second." Yeah. The severity of it, malformations can vary from person to person, but generally are not considered life-threatening. Well, yeah.
No, yeah. So like, as long as I think because they caught like, so the way they caught it is because my spine curved to the left instead of to the right first, and that's not typical of scoliosis. So that led them to do like an MRI, and then they focused in on the old brain, and they're like, hey, what's going on there?
Chiari malfunction type 1 occurs when everything you get is type 1. Occurs when the section of the skull containing a part of the brain is too small or deformed, thus putting pressure on and crowding the brain. Does your brain feel crowded right now?
With knowledge.
The lower part of the cerebellum at the tonsils is displaced into the upper spinal canal. Do you have problems with your tonsils?
I used to get tonsillitis all the time.
Interesting. All right. So what did they do for this?
Nothing. They just watched it. But I feel like it was just like, so I had those two things, and then like a year later I get diabetes, and it was like, really?
All right.
Really?
So as a young person, the scoliosis is tough. And then because the brace couldn't have been fun, everybody probably saw it, but all that.
Yeah.
And then this thing, which involves your brain. So even if you're not worried about it, you're a young kid in the doctor's office and they're like, hey, her brain is crowded. You're like, great. And then the diabetes.
Yeah.
All right. Heather, you had enough?
Yeah. And I think, so that's why diabetes kind of was like, yep, I'm done with this.
Yeah. You kind of can't throw the other two things away.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I guess you could have took that back brace off, but it's probably too late by then. They probably held
I actually, I mean, aside from like it being a back brace and like I had to wear it in high school and like traumatizing, not really traumatizing, I didn't really care, but like I loved it. It was so comfortable.
Really?
Like when I had to stop wearing it, I still wore it because it was just like cozy. Like at night, I would just like sleep in it.
Do you like to wear like a tight shirt, like an Under Armour or a spandex?
No, I don't. Now I don't, but I guess then maybe I did.
You liked it. Interesting. I'll tell you, my back is sore sometimes. Maybe I'd wear a brace.
Yeah, like I sometimes wish that I still had it because like sometimes my back hurts and I'm like, man.
It was comforting. No kidding. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's, again, with very little education and absolutely no training, let's chalk this part up to just getting a lot of stuff lumped on you at the end of your teens. And then when you went out on your own, you were like, you know, I'm going to just cut something out of my life. Yeah. I'm done with all this shit. And, but you never thought in that time, be honest with me, did you ever think, I know I'm hurting myself, or did you not even think of it that deeply?
I knew like of complications that could happen, but I just was like, yeah, that's not going to happen to me. It's fine.
Gotcha. That'll happen to other people.
Yeah. And I was wrong.
You were wrong. So what snaps you back in? Like what makes you put the pump back on and pull things together 4 years ago?
I found a lump in my breast.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Jesus.
No,
like,
I did not find Jesus.
You're like, I was like, oh, she found God. That's nice. then you're like, no, something worse. Was this lump?
Yeah. So I found a lump in my breast in like 2017, like in December, right before Christmas. Perfect time to find a lump in your breast.
Yeah. It's easier to find Jesus at Christmas, but I see what you're saying. So so were you self-checking?
No. So as you know, I live in Yellowknife. It gets really, really, really cold here. And I was outside, like coming inside from my car into my house, and for whatever reason my arm brushed against the side of my boob, and I was like, that's not right, like that's really hard, like my nipple shouldn't be that hard. I was only outside for a second. And I'm wearing a jacket.
Heather, for context, and normally I have to be honest with you, 700 and some episodes, I've never asked this question, but are please. You like chesty?
No.
So through okay. I'm actually asking for a reason, because I'm first trying to figure out how you bump against the side of your boob if you're not like.
Okay, well, like, I don't know. I'm not like a double D, but like, you know.
There's some, if I was looking at you from the back, I might see some curves on the sides. Okay. I can't believe this is what we're doing. And so you're wearing a jacket and you live in wherever the hell it is you live. So it's, you're probably wearing a thick jacket. And my point of like dragging this all out is like that it was obvious through the jacket.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like it was like rock solid. And I was like, what is that?
Wow. That's scary, huh?
Yeah.
Or at that point where you're just like, oh yeah, sure. Scoliosis.
I just was like, oh, like it's cold outside.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's cool. And then like, you know, a week later, I'm like, okay, that's still there.
And then I'm going to go to a doctor.
And then, and so then I made a doctor's appointment, and they did an exam, and then they were worried. So that made me more worried. And then I got in for a mammogram pretty quick. Which is a terrible experience.
Mm-hmm. I've never done it, but I've heard stories.
Yeah, well, especially when you have a lump.
Yeah.
Like,
And they're smashing it in that glass plate, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like a glass vice. Like, cool, thanks. That feels really great. And then they did a biopsy. But it was inconclusive. And we, because of where I live, we're not really we're not a big city.
No, really?
Yeah, I know, shocking. A lot of our medical treatment gets sent down to Edmonton. So
Okay.
I had to fly down to Edmonton to get a biopsy done. And of course, the guy that's doing my biopsy is like fresh out of school, doing a rotation. It's his like first day there. He's going to biopsy me. And like, it was horrible. It was brutal. Like, it took him like 8 tries to get like a quality piece. And it was like,
God.
like, really, like, I'm all for like edgy, like I'm all for it. Like, but like, can we put a limit on the amount of times he's trying to butcher me?
He's botched this 3 times already. Why don't we get the other guy in here right now?
Yeah.
I flew here for this, by the way.
Yeah.
And what I'm imagining is one of those planes with pontoons on the bottom, right, where you can land in a lake. I'm teasing you. I don't think
they do have those planes, but that wasn't the plane.
That wasn't the plane you were on. Okay. So what was the lump?
So it came back as they called it diabetic mastopathy, which is something that I'd never heard of.
That's new, Heather. Way to bring something new to the podcast. Good job.
So excited, right?
No,
so there's like no real, like I obviously like looked it up right away because I was like, the f is that? And there's no real cause for it. I would imagine it had something to do with my high blood sugars.
Yeah, you might imagine. Hey, want to hear something funny while we're talking about lumps in your boobs, which there's nothing funny about? You said diabetic mastopathy or whatever you called it. You said it so quickly I didn't catch the second word, so I googled diabetic boob lump and it came up. So anyone who ever gives Google crap, like, I mean, maybe they're stealing our information or taking over our lives, but it knew diabetic boob lump.
They knew what that was.
That's insane. Way to go. Diabetic mastopathy is an uncommon complication of diabetes characterized by tough masses that develop in the breast.
Yeah.
Okay. They can be mistaken for tumors. These lesions, which are painless and mainly consist of primary fibrotic and inflammatory elements, can be misdiagnosed as breast cancer. Did you have them removed?
Yeah. So I had that one removed pretty quick after that, like probably within a month. And then a year later, I got another one in my other breast. So I got that one removed.
Wow. And then since then nothing. But did that what pushed you into taking care of yourself?
That.
Yeah. It was like, I gotta have was it the lumps or the guy just manhandling you for 8 tries to
probably a little bit of both.
Yeah, you're like, I don't want this to happen. This doesn't have to happen anymore. I don't want this to happen. Oh my God, that's insane. You know, there'd be nothing okay about calling this episode diabetic boob lump, but I mean, right?
I mean, I would be okay with it.
You know, I know you would be because I've now talked to you for 40 minutes and I feel like there's very little you wouldn't be okay with, but actually, you seem like a fun date, Heather. Is what I'm getting.
I'm a good time.
Yeah.
I'm a good time.
I don't think there's a lot of questions that Heather immediately goes, no.
Not today. Yeah.
Describe how we're going to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Well, that's horrifying.
Yeah.
I only know how to joke through these things. If we talked about this seriously, I'd be crying by now. Yeah. I'd be like, oh my God. Like I would picture you as a young child and being overwhelmed by your health issues and not having enough support or fortitude or emotional, maturity to take care of yourself. And then all this comes after that and you're still kind of fighting through it. It's amazing. I'm thrilled that something happened that wasn't life altering that got you back to taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
That's really good news. So let's talk about that a little bit. You have your second fibrotic and inflammatory element mass taken out of your boob, and you're like, okay, this has probably got something to do with the fact that I don't bolus for my meals, and your A1C is like really high at that point still, right?
Yeah, it was probably still in the 10s.
And still doctors don't try to help you?
Well, so up here, there's not a lot of, like, there's no endos up here. I see a diabetic team, and that consists of like a regular GP, a diabetes educator, and a nutritionist. And I fired the GP pretty quick. She told me that if I took turmeric, everything would be fine.
Turmeric?
Yeah. So that cures diabetes.
Isn't that like a thing you cook with?
Yeah. Yeah. If you take she's like a very, she does like all the like natural stuff. So like, she was like, oh, just take turmeric and you won't have to take as much insulin. And I was like, nope.
Yeah. Listen, I don't think that's right. And if anybody's listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was like, yeah, I don't want to see her anymore. So, I saw the diabetic educator have been seeing her for 6 years. And she's amazing. And like, I mean, she's been trying to she's done an amazing job with my diabetes. So yeah.
Listen, I don't think there's anything wrong if you want to take turmeric, but I don't think you should assume that it's going to take the place of your insulin if your pancreas doesn't work right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a one-stop fix-all.
I mean, if that was working,
turmeric on your food, it's fine.
You got to imagine if that was true, right? That we wouldn't be talking about a type 2 epidemic, and there wouldn't be so many people with type 1, because we'd all just be. I, by the way, if you put turmeric on my tongue, I wouldn't know what it was.
Yeah, I was like, why am I like what?
All right.
Why is that going to fix? Okay, sure, lady, you're crazy.
Again, I'm not against it. If you think a supplement,
no, absolutely. I mean, if turmeric works for you, good for you.
Yeah, but it's not going to take away your need for insulin if you have type 1 diabetes.
Yeah,
Sure.
You're still going to need to take that insulin with it, though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's good to get rid of her. Jesus, Heather. Somehow we're doing happy and sad at the same time.
I know. Isn't it so exciting?
It's overheating me a little bit. Oh, you know what? I'm wearing a sweatshirt. I didn't realize. I thought it was your story. I think it might just be hold on a second.
Yeah.
I have to take my headphones off. Okay. Well, maybe there's a malformation on my skull that's squeezing my brain.
There you go.
I'm literally sitting here thinking, wow, this is very emotional. I'm getting warm.
I'm just getting really hot. It's just so emotional.
And then I realized it got cold here this morning, and I put my sweatshirt on to take the dogs out, and I didn't take it back off. Okay. Really, if at this point anybody listening is thinking, why am I listening to this guy about my diabetes? You might have a point. Although I love the story. Although, Heather, I got a review on the podcast yesterday. It was a very good review. But the person said that the newer episodes are more talking and less management. And I was like, okay, that might be fair. But there's all the management, like spread, like there's all the series now. Like I put them together for you in different places so we could have these conversations. And I think the person was being like saying, I really like the podcast. Just know if you're looking for management stuff, you might have to go find the series or go back earlier into the conversations where he talked more about, like management stuff. And I would have been fine with all that, except she used the word banter, which for some reason made me feel like
we don't like her.
Well, I did like the review, actually. I thought it was a good review. I just wish she wouldn't have said banter.
Who doesn't like banter?
I don't know. I wanted it. Banter seems frivolous to me. And our conversation about I don't find, oddly enough, if you want to look into my mind, I don't find our conversation today frivolous.
No.
I think we had a serious conversation so far in a frivolous manner, but I don't think the content's frivolous. But anyway, neither here nor there. I'm a bit of a word snob. I didn't enjoy banter in that exact situation.
Didn't like the use.
Literally, it was a terrific review. 5 stars. She loves the podcast, the whole thing. I just wish.
But she doesn't like your banter.
Scott, you know what? So. Could have taken a couple of minutes on Google, found a different word than banter. I think I would have been better with it. But that's neither here nor there. And I appreciate the reviews. So, all right. So let's get to, before we figure out how I just decided we're going to take a bit of a left turn here.
I love it.
Before we before we talk about what you did to bring things together for yourself, talk a little bit about how amazing I am.
Where to begin? You know, you have the same personality that I have, which is why I feel like this is going so great. At least I think it is. Anyway.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't do well married, Heather. We'd be broke.
Right. Like we have the same humor. You say funny shit, man. I laugh a lot when I'm listening to your podcast.
Thank you.
A lot.
That's wonderful.
Am I supposed to? I don't know, but I do.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I appreciate very much. I also think it's like you were doing like a low key brag when you talked about that you could see your boobs from the back. Like even though we were talking about a health issue, I was like, she is still telling people I have a nice full breast.
Yeah, a good rack.
My rack is formidable. And just like in the middle of telling a story, which by the way, at that moment, I wasn't sure that wasn't going to end with breast cancer. And so I was a little freaked out. And you still were like, no. Yeah, you can see them from the back. They're full.
Yeah, they're good. They're decent.
They're decent. Anyway, all boobs are terrific. I just want to say that right away. I've seen them from the teeniest, tiniest to the ones where you're just like, I don't understand how you're standing. And I think
how does your back not hurt?
They all have a place in the world, and that place is equal. Yeah. So anyway, not the point. The point is that I'm terrific. But
you are.
But I'm more seriously asking you, like what about the podcast works for you?
I think a lot of the things that you've talked about aren't things that I've never heard before. But the way that you deliver them, I'm like, shit, I should try that. And a pre-bolus, Scott. I've only just started doing that in the last year.
So we were,
I've been told to pre-bolus my whole life, but what's the difference? What's 15 minutes going to make? Well, a big difference.
Big deal. Yeah. Well, a person sent me a graph the other day and they were like, what do we do about this? And I'm looking at it and there's this, big spike at a meal and it comes out, it gets crashy low. And I said, is there a pre-bolus in this? No, he doesn't do that. I said, well, you could try pre-bolusing. And the person says, he's 16. He's not going to do that. I was like, I don't know what do you want me? What do you want from me? It's like she drove into a wall and she goes, what should I do about this? And I say, step on the brake. And she went, I don't want to. I was like, well,
give me another option.
Yeah. What else could I do not to crash into this wall? I'm still going to go with step on the brake because it seems the most reasonable here. I mean, I guess you could swerve or drive slower or I don't know, but just step on the brake, And it's super interesting how resistant people are to doing the little things that make the biggest difference for themselves. Pre-bolusing just doesn't stop you from spiking. It stops you from getting a low later.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it levels your whole day out. It makes everything easier. You literally put 10 minutes worth of thought into something to save yourself 8 hours.
Yep.
And yet, and the person knows that because they're literally saying, help me. I don't want this to happen. I was like, oh, you have to do the right thing. Well, I can't do that. Okay. Yeah. I don't know where to go from that. But it's interesting that you brought this up and I was, didn't know what you were going to say. But I was at dinner last night with, I don't want my life to sound too amazing because this may be the fourth dinner in 8 years that anybody's ever taken me to because of the podcast. But I was having dinner with some people from the T1D exchange. Okay. And we were just talking about the exchange and how I've been able to get people to take the survey. And it was a thank you dinner, if I'm being perfectly honest. That's what it was, right? And so we were just talking about bigger ideas. And I said during the course of the conversation, I was like, there's a couple of things I'm proud of around the podcast. I said, one of them is just the longevity of it. And that I've been able to keep it going in a way that it's not just helping people, but it's growing. I said, I think that's a big deal. I think you don't see a lot of content because I guess technically I'm a content provider, right? So it's hard to keep something like this going for 8 years, especially at the volume that I put out stuff. And I said, but the other thing is, I think I'm most proud of taking. I'm like, if you're being honest, I'm not saying anything that people don't know. I'm just saying something that people don't say Or when they say it in a way that when it's heard, the people who need it most are just like, I'm not doing that. Or I'm not listening. Like, it's just, like I always in my mind go to glycemic load and glycemic index. It's such an important concept. It's so incredibly easy to understand, but it has a big weird name and it sounds like it's going to be more trouble than it is. And so doctors don't talk about it. And when they do, people don't listen.
Yeah.
And that's it. And they're simple. Again, over and over again, I'll tell you, the podcast should be 5 minutes long. It should be one episode. It should be 5 minutes long. It should say, get your settings right, pre-bolus your meals, understand the impacts of your foods. Don't stare at a high blood sugar. Don't overtreat a low. Go live your life. Like it really is. It's that, and anyway, I'm proud of being able to deliver it in a way that gets to people, especially hearing your story, because your head's it's thick like a rock, Heather. So
I'm well aware.
It took a lot to get through there, I imagine.
Yeah. And it's so funny. Like, that's just like the simplest things. Like, I think the first episode I listened to was the one with I think his name's Kenny Fox. Is that right?
Kenny, yeah. Fox in the Loop House.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to loop. I don't even know how I stumbled upon looping, but I did. And I was like creeping on their Facebook page for probably a solid year. And then somebody had posted that Kenny was on your podcast. And I had seen your podcast probably a year before that. And I had like bookmarked it on my phone. And then I just hadn't ever listened to it. It was there. And I just I just forgot about it. Sure. Carried on with my life. Sorry, buddy.
No, I understand. That's how it works, by the way.
And then they were like, oh, Kenny's on doing this podcast. You should listen to it. And so it was like the second one. And I was like, well, there's got to be a first one. So then I wanted to find the first one first. So I listened to it. And I think he said something like, it was like, you guys were talking about basal rates. And it was like basal insulin, like the insulin you take now is for later. And the insulin you took before is for now. And I just was like, light bulb, like, oh, like that never even occurred to me. Mm-hmm. Like I just assumed insulin goes into me and it's now, like, boom, that's it. So like all these times I was like, my blood sugar's high, and instead of bolusing, I'm doing a temp basal increased by 50%. And it's like, why isn't my blood sugar coming down? I don't understand why my blood sugar won't come down.
Right.
And like, just wait. And then just like hearing that sentence, it was like, what?
I think it's so important. I was on stage a week ago for Touched by Type 1. They put an amazing event in Florida. And it's one of the things I stopped and made sure people were hearing. I was like, I'm like, insulin does not work immediately. I went through a whole discussion so they would understand that it doesn't work immediately. I talked about how you can bolus for a meal and where insulin hits along the way. And then I just said, look, the truth is that insulin you use now doesn't work until later, but that's not the way to think about it. The way to think about it is that the insulin that's working for me right now was used earlier. Like what came before is what's happening now. Is the way, if you think of it that way, for some reason it's simpler.
Yeah, it just like honestly like unlocked like, I don't even know, a next level in my brain. And I was like, oh, okay, all right.
I told those people last night, I said, if I've done anything, I've turned complicated diabetes ideas into t-shirt slogans, for the lack of a better phrase. And
you really have, yes.
Yeah. And it makes things easier because life's hard and you're busy. And if you can just remember something simple, like trust that what I know is going to happen, then you can just have that 12-second thought and move on instead of sitting down and trying to dissect exactly what's been going on with your blood sugar for the past 18 hours and making yourself crazy, trying to do computations that the truth is, like, even our best algorithms at this point don't completely understand.
Yeah.
So, and now you're trying to figure it out while you're working in a dentist's office, trying to avoid people's teeth.
100%.
Which is a lot of work. A lot of work. What?
Yeah.
Do you guys ever, it's not fair to ask you what you do in the dentist's office, but I always imagine that sometimes something's really disgusting and you guys all to get together in the room and you're like, oh my God, look at this.
They do. I don't. I can't look at, teeth are gross. Like,
Really?
I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. It's gross.
How far does this tooth thing go with you? Say you and a person were kissing and your tongue hit their tooth. Would that upset
fine.
you? That's okay.
That's fine. It's just like, yeah, I just don't want to see, like, because like the dentist isn't taking picture of nice teeth, you know?
True enough.
He's taking pictures of like teeth that are rotting out of somebody's mouth. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not interested in seeing that.
That bothers you. Okay.
Yeah.
But you can lick a tooth if it's clean.
Sure. Yeah.
Look at you, Heather.
I don't like go out and like lick people's teeth for fun, but like, yeah, I could.
Heather, what I like about your line is that it's very squiggly.
Yeah.
You're like, dirty tooth, can't see a picture.
I don't want to overcommit, you know? Like,
would be happy to lick your tooth, though, if your tooth is dirty.
yeah.
I do want to be healthy, but not enough to take my insulin.
Yeah.
Although, if something bumps through my jacket at me, that might get me to do this.
That might really, yeah.
What about your mom? Your mom's a nurse, you said, right?
Yes.
Were you just diagnosed at a time in your life where her interaction with you and diabetes was short-lived?
Yeah, she was pretty involved. She understood it, I feel like, more than I did. And she would tell me when to take my insulin when I was first diagnosed and stuff like that. And I would do it. And like, I was taking insulin at school. Like, that wasn't an issue. It was just like, I hit 19 and I was like, yeah, I'm done with this. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
It can't control me. I'm going to control it. And I was wrong.
By stuffing it down this little box and never looking at it.
And no diabetes complications are ever going to happen to me.
Do you think that was just immaturity?
Yeah,
okay.
For sure.
All right. Okay. So you figure out all this and you get back on a pump and you're not listening to the podcast at that point. That's 4 years ago. So what did you do? Was it as simple as you just started bolusing for your meals again?
I think it's, I also started wearing a CGM at the same time.
Okay. How quickly?
So, I thought that CGMs were so I had that, when I was on that first insulin pump, I had the like Paradigm one that comes with Medtronic. I hated that thing. It was horrific. I hated it. It hurt to go in. It was not pleasant. So I thought that they were dumb. And then I got a Libre first and I liked it. It was okay. I like seeing the information. So like that was exciting for me. And like I was somebody that would check my blood sugar all the time. Like I wasn't just like not checking.
Wait a minute. You weren't bolusing, but you were checking?
Oh yeah.
So you'd just be like, yep, my blood sugar is 358. Cool.
Yeah. Cool. Sick. Moving on. Yep.
Heather, you don't
like that's just like, it was like, oh, that's where I'm always at. Like I'm never like, I sat in like the 300 to 400 range comfortably for probably 12 years.
Wow. What's the first thing you noticed when your blood sugar started coming down?
I felt like shit.
You didn't like it when it was coming down?
No, it was really bad.
How long did that last?
Probably a couple months. It was like a slow progression. Like they didn't want, because I had ran so high for so long, they knew that like I would go and see them and I'd be like, I don't feel good. And she'd be like, yep, we're just going to like, we'll increase your Lantus a little bit. We'll increase your carb ratio a little bit. Like that was a very slow progression, to get it to where I like, didn't feel like I was low at like 200.
Yeah. And so a nice slow process, especially with a high blood sugar for that long, you really could cause like damage if you came down quickly.
Yeah. So like, it was probably a couple months before it came down. And even then, like, I still was like, my target was like 180.
Okay. So once you get past that part, can you reflectively look back at how you felt and how you feel now and see the difference?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 I didn't feel good at 200 ever or whatever, like at 400 or whatever. But I just like, I don't know. I just had it in my mind that because that's how it had been forever. That's just the type of diabetes I had. I just had a hard case. We just didn't know how to do it. Well, like they didn't know how to do it. I just wasn't listening.
Yeah. That's so fascinating. I'm sorry this happened to you, but I appreciate you sharing the story.
Yeah.
Because I think it's common and it's something that we could all be looking out for with our loved ones as they're growing through this, certain stages of their life, I guess. And that, you can't just, I don't know, I think you have to understand. Tell me if I'm wrong about this, Heather. I'm stopping and starting so much, but you needed help. And if someone would have tried to help you, do you think you would have listened? Like if your mom showed up on your door and said, Heather, I just talked to your doctor. I didn't realize about your A1Cs. I want to help you. Do you think you would be receptive to that?
Probably, but I don't think that really it took it took a lot. I don't even know what it was that made me click that yeah, I really need to get this together. Because I started even coming down from the 400s even before I found those lumps.
Okay.
But I still wasn't with my A1C at 10. I don't think that anybody even really explained to me how an A1C works. I realized that it was a 3-month picture of what your average is, but a 10 in my mind is that means that my average blood sugar is 10. That's good. That's okay. But that's not the case. That's an average blood sugar of 14 or whatever it is. So I think that was a little bit confusing for me. That took a really long time for me to understand that 10's not good. What should I be aiming for then? Where should I be sitting? So I think and my mom was very involved. She, as a nurse, she wanted to help me as much as she could. And I think, I don't think that she could have done anything that would have pushed me to where I am, sort of thing.
Yeah. You understand why I'm asking, right? I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Trying to figure out if this is a thing that happens to some people and they either trip their way to a resolution or they don't. And they're Mike from the Diabetes Complications After Dark episode where he just lives his whole life that way. Is it just as random as that? Is it something doesn't happen that shocks you?
I honestly think it was a random, just one day it was yeah, I really need to get this together.
Wow. It's really, it's super interesting. I'll tell you that much. Okay. So you brought it down slowly and then, you just got it down and we're good, I can do this now. And you've been doing it.
So then I, because I'm 33, me and my boyfriend have obviously been talking about children. And so I know that an A1C of 9 isn't great for having kids. So I, went in to see, a gyno and she was horrible.
Cold hands?
Sorry?
Cold hands? Trying to figure out what makes a gyno horrible. It's the first thing I thought of.
No, she was she was just because I was only I was there for information. I just wanted to know where do I need to be? What do my blood sugars need to be at? And she was very doom and gloom. You can't have children. Your blood sugar is out of control. And at this point, I think my blood sugar was or my A1C was 8.2, which was the best it had been. Yeah. And I was okay, lady.
I just got this down from an 11, but thank you.
Right. You're looking at one picture here.
Right.
And she was just I realized that there's obviously a lot of things that could go horribly wrong, but there was no zero sunshine. She just was basically you shouldn't have children and you shouldn't live where you live if you want to have children. She's not from here. So she was you can't have children in this town.
Where did she want you to live?
Oh, she told me that I needed, because I was diabetic, I should be, if I was going to have a kid, I should be somewhere down south. So
because of healthcare?
Yeah, because they're not equipped to deal with it, but they are to a degree, obviously. There is a chance that if I get pregnant and things aren't looking good, that I would have to go down to Edmonton and have my baby there. But that doesn't mean that they wouldn't be able to do it here. There's just no, there's no NICU here.
I wonder if she partially also meant, please don't have a problem around here. I can't handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to deal with this. Yeah.
You seem like a problem, Heather. Why don't you fly somewhere else and make a baby?
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Yeah.
So on paper, even though you were doing better, to a new doctor, you still look like a dumpster fire to them.
Yeah. She wrote in, with my, so I, at the time I was like talking to my diabetes educator almost like weekly, or she would like send me a text or whatever. And she was like, oh, I just got your report from the gyno. And she said that I'm doing the best that I can with the tools that I have. And I was like, wow.
Oh, wait.
She was like, I'm like offended by that. And I was like, you should be.
Wait a second. The doctor is talking to another doctor.
Yeah, in her report, yeah.
Who is saying, listen, don't put this girl's health on me. I'm doing my best.
Yeah, she said that that my diabetes educator was doing the best that she could with the tools that she had.
Is that
regarding my health?
Yeah, but are the tools, quote unquote, are they you, or are they what's?
I think like me and like our area, because like we don't have an endo here and like that sort of thing. Like basically saying that like,
between where we live and this girl's effort, we're getting, don't look at this poorly. This is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, did you find that insulting?
I thought that like, cause I mean, like, like the A1C before that was like 9.5. Mm-hmm. So like in a 3-month range, I've dropped it like a whole point. Like, so like, okay, like you're looking at one day, but you're not looking at the big picture. And so like, I was offended by that. And like my diabetes educator was too.
Was the doctor aware that you were at zero effort at one point?
Yeah, I told her.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And then I don't know why the notes wouldn't reflect a change of heart and a change of enthusiasm, and that things were going in the right direction.
Yeah.
That would seem to be how you would talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So me and my diabetes educator, like, we should get shirts that say doing the best we can with the tools that we have.
And an arrow pointing to your head.
Yeah.
Dummy doing best can. Thank you. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That really is nuts. All right. So is there any big secret to taking good care of yourself?
I mean, listening to you. And and then I started looping. So like that was like huge. That like game changed everything.
So you were doing okay and being serious. You found the podcast was helpful for you.
Oh, 100% helpful. Okay. Yeah.
Get some ideas together and some big concepts, and then say, all right, I'm going to employ more technology. And now what's your A1C now?
I got it done in June and it was 6.5.
Down from 6.6 in February, right?
Yeah.
Is it weird that I know what your A1C is?
No, because I'm pretty sure I posted it.
You posted online. That's right. Okay. So first of all, congratulations. That's wonderful.
Yes. Thank you.
Really good for you. Someone should tell you that the tools you have seem like they're perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
And maybe even better than that.
Good now.
Yeah.
I think that it's amazing. And like, it's like little things, like even in the last like 2 weeks, I don't know. I feel like you were talking to somebody and you were telling them, you were asking them what their Dexcom high was. Mm-hmm. And they were telling you, and you were like, oh, you need to lower that. And I was like, oh, I wonder what mine is. So then I like look, and mine's like set at 250.
Yeah, that's not.
And helpful. I'm like, oh, I should lower that. So like now I have it set at 180, but like in a couple weeks, I'm going to lower that again.
Heather, you broke up. Hold on a second. Finally, the Canada caught up.
So like,
Heather, the Canada caught up. Can you hear me? Sorry, you cut out. You said, it's Canada probably.
Oh, sorry.
But you just said, I'm going to lower it to, and then you just.
Oh, sorry. I lowered it to 180.
Right. And then after that, you're thinking of.
And then like, so that way, like I am at least stopping the high before it gets high.
Right. Are you thinking of a lower number in the future?
Oh yeah, I want it lower than that too.
Cool. I think
Ideally, I'd like to get it down to like 150.
Yeah, that's
as
a
the
good
high. Yeah.
150 is terrific.
Yeah.
That's a great spot.
Is that what you have Arden set at 120 for your phone, right?
Yeah, it's 120 on my phone. It's 130 on her phone.
Yeah.
And but 150 is listen, you're a person who had like a 12A1C 5 years ago. You're doing amazing.
Yeah.
And if you need to take smaller steps to it, I actually don't think those are small steps. 180 to 150, what I generally find is you kind of get what you expect. And you get what you're paying attention to. So it doesn't matter. It's a two-step process, right? If you're alerted at 180, then you'll keep your blood sugars under 200. If you're alerted at 150, you'll probably keep your blood sugars under 170. The amount of effort's the same, although at the lower number, you use, less insulin, and less insulin should cause fewer lows. And on top of that, if you're paying attention big picture, you should start seeing, hey, I'm reaching 130 and having to correct. This is only happening after meals. Maybe I'll make my insulin to carb ratio a little stronger. Or this is drifting up on me overnight. Maybe I'll make my basal stronger here. And then eventually you'll make those little tweaks. And then all of a sudden you kind of don't see 130.
Yeah.
It's just a process.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah. Like even just like, so I've lowered it. It's been like a week and a half. And like, I've been like 90% in target since I did that.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, oh, it's going up. Start doing something.
Fully expect that. That's exactly what I expect. You get what you expect. The tighter the tolerances are, the lower your A1C should be, the less variability you should have if your settings are pretty good and you're understanding the timing of the insulin pretty well. And then after that, it just sort of becomes second nature at some point, and you almost don't find yourself thinking about it anymore to the same degree. Wow. Yeah. That's really cool. I'm glad I could help.
Yeah.
Seriously.
You're killing it.
Yeah. Well, please. We know. We shouldn't.
I don't want to toot your horn, but
we shouldn't say it too loudly. But podcast just hit 8 million downloads the other day.
Killing it.
8 million. Do you know how many it had at the beginning of the year?
No. Like 2 million?
I think it had like 4 at the beginning of the year. And I think it might end the year with 9.
That's insane.
So that was crazy. I didn't expect that. I had a month, my biggest month ever, like last month, over 500,000 in 30 days, which was just insane. The first month of the podcast had 1,300 downloads, for perspective.
This is so crazy.
Yeah. And it's still striking people the way I hoped.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not easy not that anybody we've cursed a lot in this. I don't know so I'm going to have to edit anyway, but not that any of you really give a fuck, but it's, it's not as easy as you might think to start a thing and then to scale it and to grow it and to not lose at its core what it is.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
A bit of a balancing act.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's pretty terrific. The other day, Heather, by the time this comes out, we'll know if this happened or not. But a major media company contacted me the other day. And they were like, we're launching a podcast. I was like, okay, what is this about? And it's a podcast being made by a pharmaceutical company who only deals with difficult disease states. Okay. And it sounds like they're going to make a limited run series where they're going to talk about each disease state in an episode. I was like, okay. And they said, we don't know how to grow the podcast. So we were wondering if we could drop our diabetes episode, our type 1 diabetes episode, into your feed. Oh. And I was like, really? And they said, yeah. I said, I don't know about this. And they said, well, we would pay you. And I was like, well, then it seems completely reasonable to me.
Yeah.
And
how much? Yeah.
and I said, well, first of all, just so you all know, the first thing I said was I need to hear the episode first. Like, I'm not going to just say yes to you, like delivering
blindly,
whatever you want to the people who listen to the podcast. And they said, well, plus you can put an opening on it. You can let them know upfront what it is. And that way, if they don't want to listen, they can just shut it off. And I'm like, all right. And, I got off the phone. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, And, I thought, is my podcast that big that Bloomberg Media is contacting me about how to get a podcast off the ground. That's insane. I was like, is that really happening? Because it's just me. Like, there's no one else here. I mean, I don't want to say Isabel's very, very helpful online with the stuff on the Facebook group. And we've actually started, we kind of deputized a couple of people to answer questions because the Facebook group is getting
out of control.
It's so freaking, it's not out of control. Big. It's just so big.
So big.
Yeah. It's to the point now where if I put up a post, people ignore me. And I'm like, hey, I used to be the one that was like, if I said something, people were like, hey, the guy's here, you know, and now it's like, listen, there's a lot of posts every day. And so they can kind of we don't want people's questions to get missed. So now we have people who are watching and saying, look, here's your question. I think these episodes, and they're leaving you links. Like, these episodes are good for your question. Which is really cool. So I'm not doing it completely by myself, but I'm making the podcast by myself. And it was just strange to have like, a PR person from a third party company hired by Bloomberg calling me saying, we need help from you to get this massive thing off the ground. And I was like, wow, okay.
That's crazy.
Cool. Yeah. And then I told him how much, and I don't know what's going to happen or not, but I have to tell you. I was telling somebody the other day, they're like, would you do that? And I said, would I do that? I said, I would punch my mom in the face for
a certain amount of money.
For a certain amount of money. And I said, and I'd let her know, and I'd split it with her and everything. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I'd still be like, Mom, listen, bear down, because rules of engagement.
You got $1 million coming, Mom.
I got to give you a couple knuckles to the forehead here. By the way, if it was $1 million, I wouldn't even tell her.
Yeah.
And I just punch her, and when she woke up, I'd be like, "Hey, look, we got $1 million, Mom." But it was not $1 million, in case you're wondering. But
you gotta shoot high, Scott. You gotta shoot high.
It was enough money that I thought, well, this helps support the podcast.
Yeah,
and that's the goal. Like, the goal is, it's funny. I put it up online, and I said, "Would you guys mind if I did this?" Like, just trying to get some feedback from people, and everybody was lovely, and mostly they were like, "Dude, go for it." One person said, I wouldn't mind if you did it if you donated the money. And I was like, dude, this is my job. I was like, do I come to your work and say, hey, let me see your paycheck? Give that away, would you? You don't.
This is how I earn a living.
Yeah. And I get the inference, like, you're making money off of diabetes, which, I mean, I guess you could say that, but I feel like I'm helping people with diabetes and giving them information for free, but whatever. Yeah. And, but I saw the point, and I just thought, like, well, who does he work for? Like, does he work for a sneaker company? Like, should I say, hey, once you get paid, you should give all the money to those kids that sew those sneakers together? Yeah. Or like, I'm like, what are we all going to just start giving our money away? Heather, what are you going to do? Go find people who need teeth and give your money away to them because you're making money off of dentistry? I'm like, what the hell kind of crooked thinking is that?
Yeah, that's ass backwards.
If you give it away. If I give it away, I'm not doing it. I got a limited amount of time, man.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking, like, is everyone not out there trying to make money every day, like, to feed themselves? Am I the only one? Is it?
Yeah, you are. You are, Scott. The rest of us are just out here for free. And
I was like, oh, what am I, the bad person? Everybody else is just out there like, oh, I'll just give away my time for everybody for free. And you have any idea how hard it is to make this podcast? You motherfucker. I was really pissed for a second. I let it go pretty quickly because I was like, I understand. Like, you know what I mean? The idea. But my gut reaction was like, you, man. Like, I'm working here.
Like, you don't have to listen to, like,
it's free.
You don't have to listen to that episode. Like, what does it do to you, man?
I just was like, unbelievable. Well, I don't know, not unbelievable. Do you understand what I mean? Like, it was, it was off-putting for a second. Not the idea of giving 100%. Money to charity, but the idea that my money that I earn shouldn't be mine, but the money you earn is yours. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. Listen, for people who might not believe this, because this sounds like I'm just dicking around with Heather for an hour and a half. But my entire day, every day, like the way you go to work at 8 a.m. and come home at 5 p.m, my entire day, every day, and often on the weekends and in the evenings, is spent in one way or another making this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So if I can find a way to make money off of it, maybe just say, Good for you.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah, congratulations. Yeah.
And let's be done with it. Anyway, this ends the part of this story where Scott bitches about nothing. Heather, is there anything we have not talked about that you wanted to?
I think I just wanted to tell you a really great story I had recently with our local hospital.
If it's going to be better than you bumping to your own boobs and finding a medical problem,
I don't know if it's going to be better, but
go ahead, Heather.
I don't know. Anyway, so a couple months ago, I foolishly forgot to pick up insulin from the pharmacy.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it was a pod changing day. And of course, it's 10:30 at night. So we don't have 24-hour pharmacies here. They all close at 10 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like,
yeah, what
like,
do you do?
My pod's already been beeping at me for like, I already got the 2-hour notification 2 hours ago. Like, so I'm like, okay, so like I got 6 hours before this thing starts screaming, and then I don't have any insulin and I don't know what I'm going to do. So I'm like, oh, I'll just call the ER and see if they'll give me insulin. Cause like, if they don't, then I need to figure out how I'm going to get a hold of my pharmacist.
Right.
So I call and I get put through to this nurse, and he was very nice. I was like, listen, I'm a type 1 diabetic. I wear an insulin pump. I'm out of insulin and I need to replace my pump. And he was like, oh, okay. What does that entail? And I was like, it entails me getting insulin and I don't have any. So if I come down to the hospital, like I'll wait in the waiting room. I don't care. I realized that there could be people dying. Like I realized I'm not priority one. But like, I'll wait. And then like, would you guys give me 80 units? Cause I just need 80 units to fill the pod.
Yeah. To get me to tomorrow. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. He was like, oh, I don't know. I don't really understand diabetes. Let me just go ask another coworker, Kevin. And I was like, great. Kevin's going to know what's up. So he goes and he asks Kevin, and I can hear it. Like, he's clearly holding the phone away and he's talking to Kevin from a distance, and I can hear the conversation. And Kevin's like, well, just tell her not to drink a juice. And I was like, oh, sweet Jesus. So he comes back on the phone and he's like, listen, I've talked to Kevin and we think that you're going to be okay. And I was like, okay, but like, you realize that like in 6 hours, I'm not going to have any insulin in my body and I am diabetic. And they were like, yeah, we just think if you just don't have a snack or anything and you just like wait until the pharmacy opens, they all open at 9 a.m. And I was like, again, so you just so we're clear, you want me to go 8 hours without any insulin? Like, you think that that's a good idea? And he was like, yeah, I mean, if you really feel like you need to come. And I was like, yeah, I'll be there in 5.
Right.
Like,
well, what position did Kevin and his friend hold? When you got there, they were orderlies? They were cleaning the floor? What was going on?
No, they were nurses in the nursing station in the back.
Gotcha.
At the ER.
Yeah. Type 1 diabetes? Do you think they were clear about that?
I don't know. I just don't think that they thought, like I was like really clear about how like I would have 0 insulin, and they were just like, well, just don't eat. And I was like, yeah, it doesn't matter if I eat or not. Like,
yeah, you're going to see me one way or the other tonight, by the way. Either you're going to give me insulin now or give it to me later when I'm in DKA.
Yeah. So I get to the hospital and I go to like check on it in a triage, and I get this lovely lady and she's like, what can I help you with? And I'm like, I just called and heard from Kevin, and I told her the situation. She was like, so wait, all you're asking me for is insulin? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, I don't really understand how insulin pumps work. Could you explain it to me? So I explained it to her and she was like, I'll be back. So she like goes to the back. She talks to whatever doctors on staff. And he also doesn't want to give me insulin. He's like, no. Oh, and they also weren't sure that they would have enough insulin. And I was like, first of all, if you don't have 80 units of insulin.
Hold on. They weren't sure if they had enough for just for you, or they're saying if you took 80, everyone
They said that if
trouble.
I took 80 units of insulin, there wouldn't be, they didn't think that they even had 80 units. And I was like, believe me, you have 80 units. And they were like, no, I don't think. And I was like, you do. You do. I know you do.
All right. This message is provided to you by the Travel Council of Yellowknife.
Come on.
They want you to know that if you go there, you're going to get, at best, dubious healthcare.
Yeah. So she was great. She went back there. He didn't want to give me any insulin. And she was like, listen, either we give this woman insulin now, or she's going to be back here in 3 hours when her pod dies. and in an ambulance, and we have to give her insulin then. So why don't we just, take this one off? Like, this is easy enough. She can do it herself. Let me grab a vial of insulin. And he like begrudgingly gave it to her. He was like annoyed about it and like gave it to her.
The mayor of Yellowknife looks like she's like 15 years old, by the way.
Oh yeah, Rebecca Alty.
You know her?
Yeah, this is how small Yellowknife is.
How big is the place you like? There are fewer than 20,000 people living there.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you like go to you might like know Rebecca from like the grocery store kind of a thing.
Yeah, I see her all the time.
No kidding?
Yeah. Oh yeah, all the time.
Interesting. 57 degrees there right now, by the way. And humid.
Yeah.
Cold, humid, small.
Mm-hmm.
Nurses don't understand what insulin does.
Yeah, it's a great place. Great place to live.
What's a house cost? $35? What are we doing here? What's the upside?
No, houses are stupid expensive.
Really? I have to overpay for this.
We just bought our house that we live in, and we paid $400,000, and it's a 2-bed, 2-bathroom, and it's a modular home. So most houses up here are like trailers, but they're not trailers.
Get the fuck out of here. Are you serious?
Don't think. Yeah, I'm 100% serious. Don't think like trailer trash, like a trailer park.
No, I understand what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I got to pay $400,000, no offense, to live in Yellowknife?
I know.
Are you serious?
No.
How close am I to where Santa Claus lives at that point?
I mean, he's about 4-hour flight, I would say.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Right there.
I'm not even kidding, by the way.
Yeah. Neither am I.
Yeah.
I think it's like to get to the Arctic Circle from here, it's like
750 miles. Takes this is driving. It would take me 47 hours to drive from Yellowknife to the North Pole.
Because you got to go like back into like you have to drive down into like BC and then like go back up through the Yukon and come. It's a weird.
There's a lot of
There's
words.
no like direct road that goes straight through.
There's a lot of words you're never going to hear me say on my map, my Google Maps. The Yukon. By the way. All right. This is insane, Heather. Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Why don't you move?
The money's really good up here.
Really?
Yeah, I'm paid really well. The owner of my dental clinic is like, he's the most amazing man, and he pays us all very well.
I don't understand anything you're saying.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's the money, Scott. The money's here.
The money's keeping you in Yellowknife.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't mean this pejoratively, but you're doing like billing and paperwork in a dentist's office.
Yep.
And you own a $400,000 home.
Yep.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right. I don't know why, but it.
No.
Huh. Is there a movie theater?
Yeah, but like it's no Cineplex or whatever you guys have down there.
It's no Cineplex.
It's pretty sad.
Do I get to see the lights if I live there?
Yes. Yes.
Well, that sounds nice.
Yeah, so like we have we get the 24-hour daylight in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't get full darkness, luckily, in Yellowknife. So we do get like a 4-hour window usually in the winter where the sun is out.
Wait, is that maddening after a while?
I don't find it. I find it fun.
It.
Like you get tired in the winter. My boyfriend really struggles with the darkness and the light. He like has a hard time adjusting every time.
Is he from there?
No, he's from BC too.
Okay.
British Columbia. Yeah.
And he followed you there.
Yeah. Well, we met here in Yellowknife. He was working up here, and then he went back, and then I convinced him.
How did you? No, I don't want to know. Never mind. All right, because I have a short list of things you'd have to do to get me to move there, and none of them are something I can repeat here on the podcast.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I think we're done, Heather. That was terrific. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I want to thank Heather for coming on the show, and I'd like to thank US Med for sponsoring this episode. usmed.com/juicebox, or call 888-721-1514. And of course, CozyEarth.com. Use the offer code JUICEBOX at checkout to save 35%. There's more I wanted to say here, but in complete honesty, this file got corrupted and I just spent the last 3.5 hours of my life getting it fixed, so I'm fried. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back again very soon, if this doesn't kill me, with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast.